Hi, folks. Democrats are out here acting like reality is a group project and they can keep turning in finger paintings. Case in point, Gavin Global Citizen Newsom, who just flew all the way down to Brazil to cry that Trump's being too friendly with China. This coming from the same guy who refused to clean up San Francisco's sidewalks until his master, Xi Jinping, motorcaded through the city. But this wouldn't be a discussion about crybaby Democrats without checking in on the I've Had It podcast and their latest guest, Harry Sissy, who recently said this about J.D. Vance.
Had it or hit it, J.D. Vance's Halloween costume.
What?
Oh, God, had it. Are
you gay? What's
I think
wrong
it
with
was
you?
Tommy Vitor who you were talking to, and he said, I'm so sick of losing to fucking losers.
Huh?
JD Vance is such a fucking loser. He is such a loser. He's one of those insecure men I just described earlier. And I think Jennifer, you described him as a failed drag queen. It's what he always wanted. And then he had to write the book and, pretend to be that. And then now he's vice president. It's what he always wanted. He is such a loser. He's an insecure man. He doesn't have a job. All he does at the White House is troll. He went after me on Twitter.
Good for him.
You cannot be an elected official at that high and going after 23-year-olds on social. That cannot be the way.
Why?
And so
Why not?
I hate JD Vance. And so I've certainly had it with his dumbass costume, his dumbass face, and everything he does.
Harry truly exudes feeble bottom energy in every way possible. It's actually insane that this manlet is out here melting down because JD Vance had the audacity to wear a wig on Halloween. That's it, a wig. Not drag, not a manifesto, just a joke at his own expense. A lighthearted nod to the meme Democrats have been milking for months. And that's what actually bothers Harry. JD Vance can take a joke. He can play along without crying about it like Harry. Democrats can't. They've built an entire identity around outrage where humor is heresy and irony is violence. Harry, like so many of his peers, confuses mockery for trauma because he's been trained to see disagreement as oppression. When you live online, folks, validation becomes virtue and every political opponent becomes an emotional trigger. And that's why the modern Democrat Party keeps collapsing into these sorts of tantrums. Its loudest voices are professional victims auditioning for relevance. The fact that a 23-year-old influencer backed by Democrat media is publicly sobbing over a Halloween wig says everything about where our culture is. It's unserious, it's humorless, and completely detached from any sort of maturity or adulthood. And that's ultimately why you have retards like Charlemagne the God saying that Jasmine Crockett should be the face of the Democrat Party. I guess retards got to support retards.
Jasmine Crockett is actually what the Democrats should be leaning into.
What?
Right? Because she is a phenomenal messenger. And some people just got it. Like some people just have a different anointing on them. You don't know why certain people cause folks to gravitate towards them. To me, it's more than Jasmine Crockett having that moment with Marjorie Taylor Greene when she was like bad bleach body or whatever it is. Like if you watch her in these congressional meetings, like she's always on message about something. I was watching her yesterday and she was, just blatant. She was like, yo, Donald Trump is racist and this whole administration is racist and it starts at the top. And she just broke down example after example of why she just said what she said. And you heard them gasp at first, but then she broke down example of why she feels the way she feels. But it was all rooted in
so we're talking about feelings.
They just don't care about what's going on with the poor and disenfranchised. They don't care that y'all not getting y'all checks, during the government shutdown. They don't care that the SNAP benefits, are going to be gone on November 1st. They don't care about none of that.
They care about that ballroom.
And just the fact that she was able to articulate that in that 3-minute clip that I saw, and it was so powerful and so provocative. You understood what the root of her issue was, and she got you by just saying Donald Trump is racist and this administration is racist, and let me tell you why. And then you get into all of the issues.
So it's all about racism.
Need somebody like Gavin Crockett. She is the most effective messenger that the Democratic Party has right now, and they need to be using her as a Trojan horse. And you know what? I hate how
Trojan
Democrats
horse?
treat her.
Who's even going to let her in?
I expect the Republicans to say the things that they say and do the things that they do, but this is what I always say about Jasmine Crockett. Republicans talk about Jasmine Crockett publicly. Democrats talk about her privately.
I don't like that either.
I hate it.
Charlemagne's right. Jasmine Crockett is an effective messenger for the Democrat Party. In fact, she's so effective, she openly bragged during the government shutdown about using people's suffering as leverage. She literally admitted it with zero shame on camera that Democrats were holding up funding for welfare programs just to score political points. Incredible strategy. Weaponize poverty, then call it compassion. Yes, by all means, make her the face of your party. Please, I am begging you. Because when the cameras are rolling, Crockett's great at TikTok one-liners and sassy insults saying, body, bed, body, bleach, blah, 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 whatever. But when it comes to substance, she's literally running on fumes. Even Charlemagne admits it. Her arguments aren't built on facts or policy. They're rooted in feelings and racial grievance. And that's the modern Democrat Party in a nutshell. Emotion over evidence, optics over any sort of actual outcomes for the people. Crockett represents a political class that no longer governs. It just performs. Theatrics replace any sort of thought. Hashtags replace hard truths. And victimhood becomes the brand. So yes, she's the perfect face for a party that's traded conviction for clout.
One of the reasons people haven't been flying planes into buildings in the United States is because of our soft power. It's because of the diplomacy that we were doing, where we were building relationships where people would look at us and say the Americans are good people. Because when we spend money,
the CIA is good.
Them to get medicine in their country, it don't cost what it costs here. It costs pennies. That was helping to keep us safe here.
Because we subsidize it for them.
Don't let them divide you. I don't really care what you think about the LGBTQIA community. I don't really care what you think when it comes to abortion.
What are you even talking about?
I don't really care what you think when it comes to immigration. If you allow them to cherry pick you, then at the end of the day, something that you do
cherry
care
pick
about,
what?
one of the freedoms that you do hold dear, is going to be under attack.
Please, by all means, make this woman the face of the Democrat Party. I am begging you. Don't wait another second. Someone go find Chuck Schumer, hand him his walker, and tell him to open the door and listen up. Jasmine Crockett is literally out here saying one of the reasons terrorists haven't flown planes into buildings is because America sends them medicine. You can't make this up. She's arguing that soft power, which, let's not beat around the bush, means funneling millions of taxpayer dollars overseas, is what keeps us safe. Not deterrence, not intelligence operations, not the military. No, it's our kindness and our diplomacy. That's not foreign policy, folks. That's therapy speak, masquerading as some form of strange strategy. What Crockett is really endorsing is the same globalist pipeline that's been bleeding American taxpayers for decades. Billions sent abroad under the banner of humanitarian aid, only to vanish into the black hole of corrupt governments and NGO kickback networks. We've seen it time and time again in Afghanistan, Ukraine, Africa, money for schools and community development that never materializes. But Crockett calls this progress. And while she's busy defending CIA-backed soft power, she's simultaneously lecturing Americans not to be cherry-picked by the right, using a term she clearly doesn't understand. It's literally linguistic soup, the kind of empty performative word salad that's become the Democrats' entire communication strategy. Just Kamala Harris through the whole thing. What this really exposes is the decay of intellectual rigor in this political class, a generation of leaders raised on hashtags and moral theater instead of truth and accountability. So yes, make her the face of your party, please. Again, I'm begging you. Because if this is what passes for phenomenal messaging on the Democrat side, aren't facing a temporary PR problem. They're facing a generational collapse of their credibility.
So I got to ask you, because your name has been floated all over Washington, D.C., and I'm sure all over Texas as a potential U.S. Senate candidate.
Has it? Who's saying this?
What can you tell us?
Nothing.
Yeah, I am considering it, is what I can
tell
you.
Why?
I think that we're living in unprecedented times, and I think an unprecedented candidacy is what we need to do in Texas if we're going to do something different. And so I think when you're talking about how expensive these races are, starting with someone who is known and has a brand that doesn't take shit from anybody. I think being
is that what you do
for the people is what people are looking for. I think one of the reasons you saw what happened in New York is because he said he was going to fight for the people that are forgotten, not the rich people, but the people that are barely making it by in one of the most expensive cities in this country. He said he was going to fight for them. And even though there were naysayers who said he can't do this, he can't do that, guess what? there are people that are believing that he is going to try to do everything that he said he wanted to do on behalf of them. So we'll see. But
what's your point, dude? No, 0 points made.
We've got to be very thoughtful. And as you said,
that's hard for you.
Attorney General is a fucking train wreck.
This, for some reason, is what passes for political discourse in America today, folks. A politician who can't string together 2 coherent thoughts, yet thinks profanity is a substitute for depth. Jasmine Crockett's entire brand is built around attitude and not actual intellect. She boasts about not taking shit from anybody, as though defiance alone equals leadership. It's performance politics at its peak. Image over insight, emotion over evidence. This isn't about helping Texans, by the way. It's about feeding an algorithm, turning outrage and victimhood into a campaign strategy. And the fact that she cites Zohran Mamdani, a self-proclaimed socialist from New York City, who, as we all know, is actually a communist, as her inspiration tells you everything you need to know about where the Democrat Party is headed. Away from common sense and straight into the arms of ideological extremism, authoritarian extremism. Maybe that kind of rhetoric plays well on social media or in a few urban districts, but it alienates the rest of America. Democrats have confused virality with actual vision. And the irony is, as a conservative, I'm grateful for this, because the more they put people like Jasmine Crockett front and center in their party, the more voters see what the modern Democrat Party has become. Loud, shallow, and utterly unprepared to govern even a toilet bowl. And there's no greater example of this than AOC, who recently went viral for this unhinged speech she did back at home. Not New York City, I mean the bar.
We talked about running in 2018 and machine politics in New York City. There's too much money, there's too much relationships, it's too long-tailed. Don't even bother. Don't even bother, because it's just the deck is stacked too high. And we didn't listen. And a lot of times in that moment, it was seen as naive, maybe even politically, uninformed, to try anyway. But we did. And we marched ahead in a distinct rejection of cynicism and a rejection of accepting a dystopian reality in this country. We reject dystopia.
What are you even saying?
That's what we did. We reject dystopia. And we said, even if it doesn't work out, I would rather go down trying than go down having accepted these conditions.
You know, when Crazy Eyes Cortez hits the shrill tone, she's about to go full nonsense. And this latest barroom sermon of hers might be her magnum opus of incoherence. She's standing there ranting about her 2018 campaign like she's reliving a revolution, saying absolutely nothing of value, just buzzwords strung together like a college poetry slam for retards. For context, she's describing how people told her not to run because the deck was stacked too high, and it's as if that's some kind of grand metaphor for oppression instead of reality. That's life. Everyone faces stacked decks. But this is what passes for inspiration on the modern Democrat Party today. Vague slogans about rejecting dystopia, delivered with an emotional intensity of someone auditioning for a TED Talk no one actually asked for. This isn't courage, it's just pure performance. And it perfectly captures how Democrats have replaced competence with catharsis. Leaders who can't legislate, but sure can cry into a microphone. Watching this, I'm just thinking, if AOC had stayed behind the bar making margaritas, she might actually be doing something useful. Because right now, she's just serving up another round of empty words to a party already drunk on pure delusion. And there's no greater practitioner of Democrat delusion than Gavin Newsom, governor of California, who for some reason is touring the world right now, trying to convince everybody he's not actually running for president. Anyway, Gavin recently went down to Brazil, where he had some strong words about Donald Trump.
The Trump administration has abandoned any sense of duty, responsibility, or leadership.
Has it?
As it relates to the issues that bring us all here together.
What are those issues?
It's an abomination. It's a disgrace.
We were talking about yourself.
Rather than complaining about it, we're trying to do something about it.
You're literally
complaining. There's one thing that I want to emphasize to all of you is the state of California has a very different state of mind.
You literally destroyed our state.
A different quality of imagination. And I think one of the great applications, final point, is the own goal of a president of the United States who simply doesn't understand how enthusiastic President Xi is today.
The guy you jerk off every day?
The Trump administration is nowhere to be found. at COP30 today.
There's a very good reason President Trump isn't at this climate conference in Brazil, because he's actually doing his job, serving the American people, sitting at the resolute desk in Washington where a president belongs. Meanwhile, Greasy Gavin, the governor of California, is halfway across the world lecturing about leadership while our state looks like a failed nation. This is the same guy who let San Francisco, his hometown, the city that launched his career, collapse into filth and chaos, only to suddenly clean it up the moment that Xi Jinping came to town. He's not just derelict, he's performative. He destroyed one of America's most iconic cities, turned California into a case study in decline, and then has the audacity to fly abroad and cry that Trump is bending the knee to Xi. No, Gavin, you're the one who bent the knee. You did it when you sold out your own people for global applause. You're the governor of California, not the ambassador of global virtue signaling. You've got a homelessness crisis, mass exodus, crime, and failing schools, and instead of fixing any of it, you're in Brazil auditioning for CNN. This isn't leadership. It's narcissism dressed up as diplomacy, and Californians are the ones paying for this. Literally. It has never been more evident, folks, that the Democrat Party is a failed party. They don't care about you. They'll travel the world chasing photo ops, cry on cue about oppression, and turn every election into a therapy session about themselves. How revolutionary they are, how they're going to fight for the people, yet never once mention the people they supposedly represent. These are politicians who've traded public service for performance art. They've become so obsessed with identity, activism, and control that they've lost any sense of duty to the country itself. We're watching a movement that no longer hides its ambitions, their Marxist-Leninist methods, their authoritarian temperament. They use chaos to centralize power both directly through politics and indirectly through captured institutions, their activist networks, and ideological shock troops like Antifa. These people are shameless. They're crooks. So my real question to you is, how long will Americans keep buying this act? How long will decent, hardworking citizens stay silent while our cities decay and our freedoms erode under the illusion of this so-called progress? Democrats are counting on your apathy, folks. So the moment you stop believing their story, that's when their empire of lies begins to crumble. Let's do it together. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.